Horror icon Clive Barker has penned down many scary stories that have haunted horror fans. From Candyman and Nightbreed to the underrated Midnight Meat Train, Barker's stories leave you shaken from within, and then some. But none of his works are as iconic as Hellraiser. Cenobites rule the show. Angels to some and demons to others, these guys blur the line between pain and pleasure in their worship of Leviathan, the ruler of hell and all things evil. But did you know there exists a team of Marvel superheroes that were tasked and empowered by Leviathan's own sister to hunt Cenobites down? You better believe it, because this team was called the Harrowers. Although a largely forgotten name in digital circles, Hellraiser comic book fans would remember the 6 brave Cenobite hunters. But fret not, we're here to find out just who the Harrowers were. From their origin and history to their powers and abilities, we're going to talk about it all. So let's get ready to jump right into it, but before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Clive Barker's Hellraiser. The Harrowers were chosen by the goddess Morte Mamme to battle her brother Leviathan and his Cenobite army. In ages long past, Leviathan trapped Morte Mamme in a puzzle chamber called Morte's Tomb in Joplin, Missouri. She saw a chance to escape and picked 6 people to become her Harrowers. These warriors were blessed to fight Leviathan and his demonic followers and to free her from the tomb. But Leviathan tricked the Harrowers, leading to their deaths and leaving Morte Mamme imprisoned. Years later, salvation arrived in a most unexpected form: maggots. Morte Mamme used the insects to feast on her flesh, shed their skin, and search for her chosen army, and, well, quite unsurprisingly, it worked. Above the tomb, Bunny Benedict, the guardian of the Legs Benedict's Egg Museum, was startled awake by an earthquake caused by Morte Mamme. I mean, it's an egg museum. An earthquake could put them right out of business. And also, follow-up question, what is an egg museum? Do they have fossilized caveman omelets? Anyways, the quake created a crack in the ground, which allowed the maggots infused with Morte Mamme to escape. Oh, and you might be wondering how it is that maggots can fly? Well, let's just say it was Morte Mamme's magic. That's right, a wizard did it. They flew out to find her chosen few while Bunny cleaned the museum. She swatted at the swarm and tried to fix what had been unfixed, totally unaware of the purpose. Meanwhile, in hell, Leviathan summoned the General, the Cenobite dude with spikes protruding out of his bald head and shoulders. Leviathan saw Morte Mamme calling her new allies to Joplin, and he nearly lost it. Bro was rattled that his sister was at it again. Anyways, the General calls on Merkova's Lucky 6, a gash chosen especially to defeat the Harrowers. Oh, and these 6 Cenobites were also tasked with stopping Morte Mamme from escaping her prison. In New York City, tattoo artist Ron Ringwood gets stung by one of Morte Mamme's flies while at work. The sting plants a telepathic message from the goddess. The very next moment, he starts preparing to leave to head to Missouri. But not before he tattoos Joplin, Missouri onto a customer before leaving his shop on a motorcycle. Can you imagine being that customer? I mean, it's a horror story. Let's just hope that never happens to us. In Ohio State Penitentiary, Vera Wyshak is on death row. During her last rites, a priest tries to save her soul, but she refuses. One of Morte Mamme's flies lands in the priest's coffee, and after he drinks it, he's possessed by the goddess and tells Vera to go to Joplin before dying, and Vera escapes in the priest's clothes. In St. Louis, Missouri, Winston Gage, an animal shelter worker, finds a kitten that escaped euthanasia. As he rescues the kitten, it swallows one of Morte Mamme's flies. Later, Winston finds the kitten again with a tag reading, "My name is Zinc, Joplin City license." He realizes he needs to return the kitten to Joplin, so he sets off in his Volkswagen, kitty in tow. In Tennessee, twin sisters Lavinia and Lucinda Clare, wealthy Brits touring the US, are bored in Graceland. During a picnic, while planning their next stop, a fly from Morte Mamme lands on their map. Lucinda swats it, and the dead fly sticks to Joplin, Missouri, sparking their interest. Joplin is now their next stop. In Chicago, ex-professor Dublin Morse, now a projectionist, takes acid to make his dull job more interesting. A fly from the goddess lands on the projector lens, and Morse, seeing the fly as a being with a shared head, removes it. In a hallucination, the insect tells him to head for Joplin, Missouri, and get an egg. In Wichita, Kansas, Marty Sevenbirds, high up on a power line and battling his fear of heights, sees the last of Morte Mamme's flies get eaten by a spider. When he reaches the top, he sees the spider has woven Joplin M.O. into its web. So yeah, each person called by Morte Mamme travels to Legs Benedict's Egg Museum in Joplin. Of course, Bunny has been waiting for them and she greets them all. She tells them about the monument that the museum was built around and how her family has protected it for generations as part of a pact with the Native Americans. During her tour, another earthquake cracks the floor. While exploring the crack, they discover a stairwell that descended down below and into darkness. Zinc, the kitten from earlier, runs straight into the darkness, which leaves Winston Gage worried. Next thing we know, the group grabs lanterns and follows the stairwell, while Bunny, hurt from the earthquake, stays behind. Below, they find a granite rock blocking a chamber doorway. It seemed jammed, but they banded together and managed to move the rock aside. These men and women, the warriors of Morte Mamme, the Harrowers, find the bodies of 6 people who have been dead for a very long time, as well as Morte Mamme's prison. These corpses were of the previous 6 people chosen by Morte Mamme to be her Harrowers. Anyways, the seal in the prison had a message: Sex liberabit, si enigma explica erit, which translates to 6 shall release if the puzzle is solved. They understand they must stand before the seal and speak the Latin phrases in front of them. After doing so, they enter 6 individual chambers and the room starts to spin. Morte Mamme appears before them and says they were chosen to be her Harrowers, warriors against the Cenobites created by Leviathan. She explains that the bodies in the chamber were once her Harrowers, who died after being tricked by her brother. We already mentioned that part, but Morte Mamme gives each of them a weapon infused with her life force, and these weapons were supposed to even the odds in the battle between good and evil, the battle between the 6 Harrowers and the Lucky 6. Morte Mamme tells the group they'll follow in the footsteps of their predecessors, the men whose remains they have just witnessed. That's probably not the most encouraging thing she could have said, knowing that the path you're supposed to follow could lead to your very doom in the most literal and grim sense of the term. Also, she warns that Leviathan has sent the Lucky 6, his most able warriors, to stop them after they summoned her. But to help the Harrowers a little more, Morte Mamme gives each of them special abilities. So you could say they were kinda turned into superheroes, but of the divine variety. Interestingly, as the Harrowers return to the surface, Winston makes this strange discovery, something that shocks him and blows the minds of the others. So what was it? Winston realizes he's seeing through Zinc's eyes. He sees the kitten taken by Markova, a Cenobite with a horse's skull on her face, along with the other demons sent to stop them. Oh, just a side note, Markova wasn't just some weird-looking Cenobite, she was, in fact, Pinhead's loving girlfriend. Yup, the same one, the one and only High Priest of Hell and Leviathan's right-hand man, or right-hand demon. Meanwhile, Bunny is hanging from the ceiling by hook chains, and if you're even remotely aware of the Hellraiser universe, you'd know that hooks and chains mean only one thing: Cenobites. Magically enough, Winston swaps places with Zinc and appears before the Cenobites while the kitten is teleported to the stairwell that led to Morte Mamme's prison. Markova says some nasty stuff at this point, something about using Zinc's intestines as a bracelet, but Winston chops off her arms with the battle axe. You see, she was supposed to be this really mean and ferocious servant of hell, but Winston kinda made that arm chopping look easy. The other Harrowers regroup at the museum and attack the Cenobites with the weapons gifted to them by Morte Mamme. During the battle, Dublin Morse uses his gift of invisibility to stab a Cenobite cowboy with his dagger. Ron Ringwood leaps into the fight, but is caught by the Cenobites' hook chains. Fortunately for him, Vera saves him from castration with her boomerang. Close call. Very, very close call. But it doesn't go as well for Vera, whom the Cenobites then capture with chains, and she calls out for Morte Mamme's help. The goddess hears her warrior's cries and makes Vera's blood and saliva acidic to the Cenobites. Now, that's the kind of quick response we all want from our prayers, right? Anyways, the acid blood thing was too much for the Cenobites, and they release Vera when her blood does all kinds of nasty, painful things to them. In fact, she spits on one of the Cenobites and the demon just dissolves. Marty Sevenbirds, a natural pacifist, helps Ron when Markova attacks him. Girl's arm had been completely severed, but she still had some fight left in her. We gotta say, Pinhead has amazing choice in women. What do you think? Marty stabs Markova in the thigh with his new longsword and forces the Cenobite to retreat. He frees Ron from the chains, and Ron's wounds heal instantly thanks to his new regenerative power that puts Wolverine and Deadpool to shame. Did you see the trailer for that, by the way? Keep an eye out for some Wolverine and Deadpool content here on Marvelous Videos. Moving on, the twins Lavinia and Lucinda hide, too scared to join the battle. The goddess creates a guide for them named Ovid. Ovid, who looks like a baby with insect wings and has pointy ears, speaks too and happens to be very flatulent. He tells the twins that Cenobites are confused by his human-like flatulence, which disorients the demons. Ovid encourages the Claire twins and says they're stronger than they think. Furthermore, Morte Mamme blesses them with mirror images of themselves and creates many reflections that confuse the Cenobites. The twins use this ability to tie up the demons with their lasso, while Ovid breaks wind above them. Now trapped, Marty Sevenbirds is granted lightning generation by the goddess. He hurls lightning bolts at the Cenobites and incapacitates them. Next, the Harrowers use their weapons to hack the demons to pieces, which is a surprisingly satisfying sight. I'm sure many people root for the Cenobites, but it's just not our thing. However, Merkova escapes and drags Bunny back to hell with her. Morte Mamme tells the group that the general, Leviathan's commander, will suffer for the failure of his soldiers. He tells them they must enter hell to rescue Bunny Benedict, and that totally makes sense. I mean, Bunny did in fact faithfully guard her tomb, and it would not have been fair to abandon her. As the Harrowers prepare to enter hell, Leviathan gives the general one last chance to prove himself. But none of these guys know about a little something called plot armor. The general builds a horrific monster from the body parts of his fallen Cenobites, which Leviathan names the Furii, and sends it after the Harrowers. The group fights the monster while Ron Ringwood searches hell for Bunny Benedict on his motorcycle. Marty bravely sacrifices himself. Not only does he resort to electrifying himself, but he also tackles the Furii and takes the monster into the deepest pit of hell. Anyways, while torturing Bunny Benedict, Pinhead discovers that she's a transgender woman and is amused. He prepares to use a blowtorch for impromptu surgery, but Ron Ringwood finds them on his bike and uses his axe to cut Bunny's shackles. He escapes with her before Pinhead can harm her. Marty's sacrifice frees Morte Mamme from her prison, and Ron returns with Bunny to the other Harrowers. The goddess takes Bunny and briefly impregnates herself. Bunny then returns to the others, and Morte Mamme explains that Bunny has 24 hours in her current form before she changes. When Bunny asks what she'll become, Morte Mamme says she doesn't know. The goddess states that it's up to destiny, and she is just a conduit. Then she disappears. In hell, Pinhead mourns Merkova's death, vowing she won't have died in vain after being wounded by Marty Sevenbirds' divine sword. 24 hours later, the surviving Harrowers gather with Bunny in a park in Joplin to witness her transformation. They watch in amazement as she turns into a little girl and runs off to play with other children. Morte Mamme appears before the Harrowers and tells them to get ready, for Leviathan has many souls that need freeing. Their journey has just begun. Back in hell, the general begs Leviathan for another chance to destroy the Harrowers, declaring this time it's war. Later, Vera helps Kate Johnson to enter hell. She kills Aparius, hell's beekeeper, and then followed the tree roots binding the trapped souls of the Johnson family. Vera killed the queen bee and bled on the tree's roots, freeing the souls for cleansing by Morte Mamme. Kate and her husband had their last 24 hours together before his transformation. Vera then left for parts unknown. Clive Barker's The Harrowers. This time around, the Harrowers proved themselves capable in their battle against Pinhead and the Cenobites. They quite rightly proved that they were more than mere survivors, so after their first encounter, the team got their own series, Clive Barker's The Harrowers, written by Mark Smith and Gene Colan, with Anna Miller writing the second issue. Over 6 issues, they fought the Cenobites. While in previous comics they only responded to danger, this time around they actively hunted the rogue demons. Despite having no prior experience, the Harrowers became the Hellraiser universe's top Cenobite hunters. Through a series of cryptic clues and mysterious omens, the Harrowers frequently traveled between Hell and the mortal world. Their missions mostly revolved around freeing various souls. Leviathan and his Cenobites were obsessed with order, control, and excess in terrifying ways. In contrast, Morte Mamme's transformations were as beautiful as nature itself. The Harrowers and their comics expanded the Hellraiser mythos in a way that was unique compared to their film and prose counterparts. In fact, these comics felt like a breath of fresh air in an age when all the Hellraiser comics seemed the same, and to be honest, they were a better take on the story. The members of Marvel's Cenobite hunting team of superheroes. Now, although there were 6 warriors chosen by Morte Mamme, I like to include Bunny Benedict and Zinc as well. I mean, they did play a crucial part in the series, so... Bunny Benedict. Bunny Benedict, the protector of Morte's tomb, had this role passed down to her through generations. She was attacked by Cenobites and taken to Hell, where it was revealed that she was a trans woman. Ron rescued her, and thanks to Morte Mamme's cleansing, Bunny was reborn the next day. Ron Ringwood. Ron Ringwood, a tattoo artist from New York City, was drawn into Morte Mamme's Harrowers. Often reckless, he was frequently wounded in battle with the Cenobites, but could instantly regenerate thanks to his abilities. He ventured into hell alone to rescue Bunny from Pinhead and wielded a divine short sword. Vera Wyshak. Vera Wyshak, once on death row at Ohio State Penitentiary, escaped her fate by becoming a harrower. Morte Mamme transformed her blood and spit into a corrosive weapon against the Cenobites. She wields bladed boomerangs courtesy of Morte Mamme. Winston Gage. Winston Gage, who worked at an animal clinic, found the kitten Zinc and shared a special bond with her. As you may remember, he can see through her eyes and switch places with her via teleportation. Winston's weapon of choice is a divine battle axe. Zinc. Zinc, Winston's cat, came to him after swallowing one of Morte Mamme's flies. Her collar led Winston to the Egg Museum. Needless to say, she lets Winston see through her eyes and switch places with him. Lucinda and Lavinia. The Clare twins, Lucinda and Lavinia, are wealthy but felt unworthy compared to the other harrowers. Morte Mamme created Ovid to guide them, helping them to overcome their fear and defeat the Cenobites. They can create duplicates of themselves and were given a divine lasso by Morte Mamme. Dublin Morse. Dublin Morse, a former professor, had a calm demeanor that helped him connect with the fly sent by Morte Mamme, leading him to the other harrowers. He has the power of invisibility and uses his divine dagger to do all his Cenobite killing. Marty Sevenbirds. Marty Sevenbirds, a pacifist, overcame his dislike of fighting to save his fellow harrowers multiple times. He sacrificed himself to eliminate the Furii, and now they are locked in eternal combat in Morte's tomb. Marty could generate electricity from his body and had a divine longsword to help him in his cause against the Cenobites. I'm afraid that's all we got for you this time, but we've got plenty of videos on the Hellraiser franchise in our playlist on the same. If you've reached this point in the video, I'm sure you'd be interested in checking the other videos out as well. And, as always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.